Cutting edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw-dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul is awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. All right, you divine lions and lionesses, welcome back to another Send It Sunday on the Sovereign Soul Show. On the heels of King Charles' historic visit to the White House with victory signals and even Q-coms emerging from multiple directions, including President Trump himself, this explosive show is going to unpack the powerful thread from the 1913 Act to the theft of America's gold, to President John F. Kennedy's Executive Order 11110, and forwarded to Trump. So we have justice narratives, indictments, assassination attempts, stolen elections, historic monetary questions, and mounting pressure in gold and silver markets, and the bond gate market collapse coming. And it's a moment which I believe is bigger than anything we've seen since the end of World War II. Even the deep state billionaires like Buffett and Fed Chairman Henry Paulson are issuing stark warnings on that deep market stress in U.S. Treasuries, and the debate around sound money versus fiat has reached a boiling point. So we have symbolism emerging across headlines, and I'm going to connect the dots for you on those converging signals, culminating in FAFO, freedom, and what it means for America 250 and the world. Nothing can stop what is coming. We'll see you soon. And here we are. Welcome. It is just a little bit past 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you very much for those patient on the live who are waiting how to do a camera switch and then just test the audio before rocking it. Hope you're all doing incredibly well. Once again, I'm your host, Brad Wozny. You're on the Sovereign Soul Show, where we stand for love, levity, and liberty, because love is the greatest power in the universe. As a Reiki master over a decade, practicing a quarter century, right? I can tell you that, and elevating our vibration, laughter is the best medicine, as Reader's Digest has said, is totally right. There's a ton of laughter over the last week. And what we've just seen here, by the way, is a century-old monetary structure under incredible visible strain. Everybody on the planet who is awake, who's not a normie, can see it. The metals markets are flashing historical signals, questions around accountability dominating the headlines of everything, like you saw, stolen elections, war crimes, etc. So what happens if history is beginning to rhyme? That's what we're going to be discussing here on this show, connecting President John F. Kennedy to President Trump, gold and justice, not just from the Federal Reserve System, but everything all around the world. And power centers are under scrutiny right now. And before I get going here, just as a reminder, everybody, I had signed up as an infantry soldier in what I believed was my country, Canada. Turns out it's not a country. It's not a sovereign nation. It is a crown corporation registered in Washington, D.C., still headquartered today. It was registered July 1st, 1867, Dominion Day, in Washington, D.C. What the heck is that all about, right? And it's under the umbrella of the then 1871 USA Incorporation, which took away the constitutional republic. All of these are historical fact. I've shown on over 100 shows. Now we're coming up on 950 almost on the Sovereign Soul Show. And by the way, this is the first show of the 4th year. This show began in May of 2022. So with me the entire time is our mascot, the Bling Buddha. He's firing red pills of awakening from his 9mm. It's a SIG 226. Got a big old smile on his face. And he's always had, as it's called, the Bling Buddha, he's always had that big old gold chain with a silver medallion. And on that medallion is an XRP, Ripple token, the whole way through, right? With the dove piece on his left shoulder, as well as the flower, lotus flower of life in his left hand. And if anybody's going, why do you do Bling Buddha? Because every now and then, one of those people, well, hey, just check it out over here in our logo for sovereign. You've got the heart is the O. You have the I is Archangel Michael's sword in the form of a cross ready to release. And it's all about the children. And we have the other O in soul. Soul stands for Sound of Unlimited Love. That's a download Prime Creator gave me a few years ago to share with all of you. Love that as well. And that soul, that is the tree of life in that O. So we are all here and as a divine expression of divinity, and we have all been through this incredible spiritual, psychological, emotional, physical, mental turmoil and warfare, and you're still standing. So congratulations, because America 250 is more than just America. I'm going to be covering that coming up on the show. And by the way, this week has credible for a few guests. So if you haven't seen this on YouTube or on Rumble as you're watching this broadcast, later listen to the podcast, you can go to the links in the description every single time. Here it is on Rumble. Here's the over 900 shows which are still up. So just a few days ago, I was brought on as a financial guest with John Michael Chambers on his Global Financial Reset show. Fed is dying. Here's what comes next. You guys are going to get directly from me, because the last show I did on Send It Sunday has received nearly 1 million views on, yes, the Sovereign Soul Show Rumble channel, Grassroots Warrior Network, and all around nearly 1 million views on a single Send It Sunday show 2 weeks ago. Here we are now. Trump and America First did that with Major General Paulie Valley, National Treasure. I'm so delighted to assist whenever I can. Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, United States Air Force, retired 3-star, and U.S. Army retired Major General Paul E. Valley in their Stand Up America U.S. Foundation. Michael Jaco and I, again, SEAL Team 6 DevGru legend. We did the Keys of Creation and a few other shows that happened prior to that over the week. And I had a lot of activity, even though you might not see a lot of shows. But yeah, even though it says on Rumble, 29,000 views for the last Send It Sunday show, there are over 714,000 views of it on the Grassroots Warrior Network. And we really appreciate and thank them, as well as my former roommate, the governor, self-identified Kevin Hoyt of Vermont, descendant of one of the Minutemen of Vermont who took one of those first shots. Now, I'm going to build this show from a historical narrative standpoint so everybody gets it on why I fully believe, and some experts concur with me, that we're going to see $20,000 an ounce gold this year. Remember, people going, oh my gosh, it's almost 5,000 now. It's 4,700 in the last few weeks, 45, up to 5,500 and 5,400 in January when silver had to slingshot to 120. You know, like, no way. Well, remember where gold was just 2 years ago, right? It was over half, less than that, what it is right now. And you're going to see the math. I will show you the math as we get going. We've got to bring everybody on here. And of course, you can always fast forward if you're not on the live stream. And I appreciate all of you coming along here for the ride. So a little bit of funny to begin with right now, right? About the British, because we have to begin with the presence of King Charles Central Casting and what just took place at the White House and why that's significant for driving, in my opinion, over $20,000 an ounce gold this year.
We've just arrived in the colonies because there was some bitching over a tiny 3% tax. Not that big a deal, but whatever, this shit'll be easy.
What the actual fuck? Where the hell are they? Unless they're lined up 10 feet in front of me wearing bright blue uniforms, I can't see them. These guys are such assholes. What kind of a dickhead doesn't line up in a straight line and patiently take turns shooting one another?
Sir, these colonials are worse than gonorrhea. They hide behind trees and pick us off while we pass through single file wearing bright red. And you would know, Corporal, even though we're the superpower of the world, we still don't know how to counter this ingenious tactic of hiding behind trees.
God damn, we've been here 8 years and are just getting our shit pushed in. These boys weren't kidding. They really do hate taxes.
Okay, this is our last stand. We may have a chance if we just... Nope. Shit. Never mind, those ass-smelling French are here. I'm here in place of Cornwallis, because apparently he's really sick today, to deliver terms of surrender to that giant stud right there.
So a lot of fun, right? Just having a bit of a summary as to what happened back then with that video, shown it a few times. It's really important, too, that everybody gets what has been coming out from Q. Now, the normies will say Q is not real. Let me take you back to March 7 and March 8 of 2020. On March 7, 2020, Dan Scavino posted, my next piece is called, and it's got that meme of Trump playing violin, nothing can stop what's coming. And the next day, President Trump on then Twitter, March 8, 2020, said, who knows what this means, but it sounds good to me. And we all know, as Derek and I have done multiple shows over the years about 45-47 and telegraphing that to people, that President Trump is a wartime commander in chief, and he has continued to be so. And we are in that. There's 51 national emergencies that are still affected by presidential orders. Oh, this is so important for what's about to happen on July 4th for everybody, even May 17th with the rededication under God. And for anybody who hasn't seen it, they didn't notice it. This was posted by President Trump on April 30th on his Truth Social. And he says anybody running for president or vice president should be forced to take a cognitive examination prior to entering the race. By doing so, we wouldn't be surprised at people like Barack Hussein Obama or Sleepy Joe Biden getting elected. Our country would be a much better place. I took the exam 3 times, my 3 terms as president, and aced it all 3 times. An achievement that, even on a single exam, according to the doctors, has rarely been done before President Donald John Trump. So there you go. On April 30th, confirmed once again, I've been president 3 times. We saw that when he spoke to the generals and all the flag officers, 800 assembled at Marine Base Quantico, Virginia in September last year, 2025 with Hegseth. You know, so people could say I was the president then and I would still continue to be the president. And here's President Trump on the same day that he made that post saying that. Here's a clip directly from him.
With the drug companies, they said, what you did is impossible to do, but I do it. I do a lot of things that are impossible to do, like becoming president 3 times, like winning 3 races, Anyway, so we have the lowest.
Now, here's what you've just seen, right? You're just seeing him say, I've been president 3 times. We know about the stolen elections today. Here's the Q Delta from Juan O'Savin. He'll be coming back on the show in a little bit. But here's that 3 May today, Q Delta from 107. I'm going to show you a little bit closer what that stands for. Here it is on May 7, 6-year Delta. Stay with me, deplorables. You'll love how this movie ends. And then here's the second image that was on Juan's post on X. In reality, they're not after me. They're after you. I'm just in the way. All extremely powerful because we're talking about a deep state system which has tentacles and everything from oil to the medical industrial complex to pharmakia, big pharmakia, right? I mean, chemical weapons and surgical strikes are no way to heal or upgrade the human body. Yes, necessary at a certain point in time, you know, for acute things that might happen in emergencies, but we know that it's not a way to heal or upgrade the body. Anybody tell me what chemical weapon could do that? I'm still waiting for the evidence, right? Well, here, let's go back to the King Charles visit where the QComs were literally off the charts. It had the normies, the raid scrolling micropenis normies going crazy about all of that. And I'm going to start it with the Bell of Freedom. So we saw during one of the last final dinners, the big one at the White House where Prince Charles central casting. If anybody watched that clip or watched any of it whatsoever, here's a great little summary because he presented President Trump with a Freedom Bell from Her Majesty's ship, a submarine, 1944, P333. Look at that. 333, also incredible numbers. Ascended Mastery number 2 was a British T-class submarine launched in 1944 that featured a specific badge typical of Royal Navy vessels, which included a depiction of a playing card, specifically the Ace of Spades, often interpreted as a trump card. Okay. Well, how incredible is that on the 28th of April that came out during that dinner? And we have more about it because we can go and look at the Q posts as a result of this. And if anybody's you're getting a little bit of a masterclass in the Q posts and what's coming so that everybody can be enlightened and feel good about their community and their family that's all around them. Well, here it is. We're talking about the Bell of Freedom in a Q post. Well, just like you saw from, who do we know that just said this? Yeah, King Charles, in presenting it to him. And what was the Bell of Freedom that we've seen from President John F. Kennedy that he had on the back of his boat? Here it is. There's that picture. And it says, where we go one, we go all, which was also shown again in the movie White Squall. So does that mean white hats and white squall is all inclusive in terms of the QComs? Very likely so, with the way that they play it out, right? So let's continue. What else did we see on the 28th of April? Well, here is Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, the one who has been very powerful on pushing disclosure, whether it's Joe Rogan or in the Congress on UFOs and alien entities, showing the image of the first beautiful First Lady Melania Trump waiting with President Trump at the White House for Charles and Camilla to show up. And she's wearing, look at Melania's dress, the QComs, as we've covered with Wano Savin several times and others. She's wearing a pink dress. What is the pink dress completely symbolic of, right? Well, we know that it's symbolic of victory is ours. And I'll be coming back to that as well. Victory is ours. But one thing you got to go to and look at is some of the things that they've shown us, and people are still living through it, is when Charles in 2025 showed up and gave his little speech at Parliament in Ottawa to everybody who had applauded, the Waffen SS ministers. Look what's behind him on the chair that is marked once again, that we showed on this show and is picked up again right now on the social media channels. 1867 to 2017, the end of the Canada Crown Corporation, part of the capitulation tour, which Derek's covered off many, many, many times, right? And on that capitulation tour, we know that there's certain deep state entities which have been removed. And sure enough, we're still waiting for a few more. I get it. You get it. And we're all here. We talk about future-proofing past and going back to the comms with Melania in those dresses. Take a look at this. Once again, this show is about Presidents JFK to President Trump. Forward to it. Many people we've seen referencing the QComs, the starter, the finisher. So here we have Jackie Onassis Kennedy wearing the similar type of dress color, even though it came from a different individual. It was literally granted to her, gifted to her by, back then in 1962, the Shah of Iran, Pavlani, and his wife. It's absolutely incredible when you look at it from that standpoint, because we're sitting here going, wait a second, what does this all have to do with what is taking place right now? Well, when you go and you look at Charles with Trump at the White House, this nice little report came out revealing the actual royal bloodline of President Trump himself. When you're looking at this saying, wait a second, President Trump comes from a royal bloodline. Let's not forget that his, mother, not wife, his mother, wife is likely a Romanov, Melania right now, but his mother, her last name was Christ, Elizabeth Christ. That is President Trump's mother. Isn't that truly incredible when you look at it from this standpoint? What's also unique about this bloodline is it shows in this paper, which again, President Trump posted on his Truth Social, the split and the connection, the fact that he and Charles, now Central Casting, were cousins. And that was just food for everybody to go down the rabbit hole and discover that the previous Queen of Scotland was back then trumped by Queen Elizabeth and took away her throne. The rightful throne of Scotland should be in Trump's bloodline, and it was taken over by Queen Elizabeth. I think what you're going to enjoy is watching a little bit more about Trump now trumping Charles at the White House. Here's this great clip played by So, I mean, it's so impressive, right? What they're showing everybody. I'm going to play this once again because we have to go back to Trump and the capitulation tours where he stepped in front of then Queen Elizabeth doing the royal review, right? All those years ago when nobody's supposed to in protocol unless she is submitting. So here you have more submission and capitulation being shown, and he's greeting his own cabinet members. Let's play this once again where everybody is. Let's go in there and here. Shove from the past. Now, stopping here and focusing on Melania, what she's wearing is an exact replica outfit of what Princess Diana wore once in a royal visit. Wow, absolutely incredible. It's all showing you the capitulation and what has happened for everybody. And it's really a calm saying that the British Empire, and on that day when Charles showed up, as well as Camilla, where they landed at Andrews Air Force Base, they were greeted not with anything that was English, they were greeted with the Star Spangled Banner. And they had to listen to the American anthem, and that was it. Get in the car, go over to your embassy, and then get over to the White House for your greeting, which we just showed you that happened right here. So the comms are off the charts, and there are so much more, and I'm not going to go into it indelibly. What we have to capably understand, comprehend, and then unleash is the sovereign facts. And you can go out and you can do your research as well, that you have the capitulation of the British crown is now under the thumb of the American Constitutional Republic. In fact, America 250 is even pointing to that fact. I'll show you that a little bit later on as we go forward in this program. What's incredible to also see, and again, that was a clip on RT News, I mentioned the Trump bell. So now you have Trump has said I've won 3 times. He's posted that out there. And here is a great little dissection of what the bell of freedom and the bell from HMS Trump in 1944, P333, for that British Royal Navy submarine, what it might mean a little bit further. And kudos to the Instagram and the TikToker who put this one together symbolically.
Fresh wind, and I can hear this sound. Something truly wonderful is happening. There is a difference inside of me, more than a feeling. This is a prophecy. Something really powerful is happening.
Well done summary for everybody. And that's what we all are now these days, right? Those who are awake, they're not normies, they're not asleep, they're not sheep. You are sovereign in your soul first and foremost, because our sound of unlimited love is infinite. Our soul, the signature of our soul sign is infinite, but we are in a finite existence in this reality. And it's up to each one of us to gather together and to share and get it going, right? And yes, 20, maybe more. Hint, hint, wink, wink. $1,000 per ounce gold, and what that means for silver is certainly coming up. But I want to finalize this with, once again, the post from 107. And what Juan has just shared here with everybody in terms of the significance for the power of the dresses, which Melania had worn about the victory is ours, is stated by Juan on this post on the 30th of April on X. Now, I'm going to read this to you. 3 paragraphs from Juan because of the dress that was gifted Jackie Onassis Kennedy. And he writes this: some of those dress comms make sense in that victory is ours. A much softer vision is evident in Melania's dress for the banquet with the royal couple. Melania is wearing a pale delphinium, pink silk strapless gown, by Christian Dior Haute Couture, with off-white Dior suede gloves and Dior silk pumps. It can also be seen as an homage to Jackie Kennedy, who wore pink at another historic and significant event, also created by Christian Dior, coincidentally, and long white gloves. Pink evening gown worn by First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, an evening gown in candy pink, silk Dupioni shantung. The dress wraps in the back and ties in a stiff kabuki-style bow. It features a boned cotton net under bodice that shapes the figure, allowing the silk to fall gracefully over the structured foundation. Long white gloves complement this gown like Melania. In the final paragraph, this dress was worn by First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy to a dinner held in honor of President and Mrs. Kennedy, given by Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the Shahanshah of Iran, and his wife, Empress Farah Pahlavi, on April 12, 1962. Mrs. Kennedy also wore it to the state dinner honoring French Minister of Culture André Malraux at the White House on May 11, 1962. And by the way, everybody, the source is the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library and Museum. President John F. Kennedy, the starter. President Trump, the finisher. And we'll get into President Kennedy in Executive Order 11110 very shortly after this. I just want to once again remind everybody that we, and just last week, once again, Donald Trump Jr., are partners with Goldco. So here we are with the number one precious metals company in America. And right now, if you're an American with over $50,000 in your IRA or 401k, you could qualify for up to 10% free silver and gold match. It depends on the qualification of the acquisition, but you can completely have a free call, consultation, and a report with them. I'm going to play this for you now at Goldco, and I'll see you right after this. All right, you sovereign souls, now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver if you already have not. And if you are and you have a chance to do so, I highly encourage to do so even more, because gold and silver will launch the golden age, which Commander-in-Chief Trump has continuously referenced.
The dollar is going down, and it's not a pretty picture, and it's not being sustained by proper policy and proper thinking. This was an opportunity, and maybe an opportunity to show people what's happening with the dollar so that we can do something about it.
Get some if you can. BuddhaLovesGold.com will take you to our partner Goldco. They have over 6,000 five-star reviews. This is why now is the time to buy gold and silver, because we have thousands of Americans buying gold today. The rising inflation has reduced our purchasing power. Dysfunctional politics don't work for us. The US dollar has lost over 97% of its value since 1913, while the price of gold has increased over 9,000%. Silver has fared well against the dollar too, with the silver price increasing over 4,500% since 1913. It's about wealth protection. Physical precious metals act as a hedge against dips in volatile markets. Go over to BuddhaLovesGold.com. That's www.BUDDHA, BuddhaLovesGold.com. You will download your free silver and gold guide today, and our great people over there at Goldco will take care of you. That's BuddhaLovesGold.com. You'll see a picture of me right on there, Brad Wozny. And once again, BRICS is the new financial system. Asset-backed precious metals is the way of the future. This is about financial control. Diversifying your assets with gold and silver puts you in control of your wealth at BuddhaLovesGold.com. Now, I want to talk about the QCOMs as they continue to pour in and bring us back to where we are right now. Speaking about the $20,000 gold this year, and that again is my belief, and a few other experts believe that too. And I'll be showing the math. What you're seeing on the screen is a post from Kirill A. Dmitriev. Now, this is the man who was appointed by President Putin to negotiate all foreign trade deals on behalf of Russia, and in particular with the United States of America. And here is Kirill Dmitriev on the 31st of August last year, posting on his own personal X account, viewed by millions and millions of followers and so many others. And he posted this at 1:48 a.m. on August 31st. President Trump reposted the Q plus post. And as you can see on screen, unless you're listening to the podcast, it says in this post, the world will soon understand. It's got the image of President Trump in front of the world. In his left hand is the letter Q, and then it has a plus sign, and below it says, nothing can stop what is coming. Do you think, everybody, Do you think that one of the highest levels in the Russian Republic Federation, working on behalf of President Putin, who's negotiating trade deals with sovereign nations around the world and is directly aligned with President Trump and his cabinet, do you think he's just going to be willy-nilly throwing something out here like this? Absolutely not. And what we also just saw when we talk about gold is President Trump yesterday, Saturday, posting a golden picture of President Trump. The day before, what did he post? The day before, he took Spiritual Street Fighter 17, an incredible account I highly recommend you follow on Truth and X, who said the storm is coming, nothing can stop what is coming, which is a hat tip to what is about to happen. And remember, we're waiting for the comms, which comes from President Trump that says, my fellow Americans, the storm is upon us. And we mentioned about the cards, the Bell of Freedom that was given to him by Central Casting Charles just this past week. When we talk about the cards and the spade for which that Bell of Freedom stands for on that 1944 HMS Trump, the name, I mean, it's blowing me away. Royal Navy submarine had a spade. President Trump on the 1st of May has the photo. I hold all the cards. Then we also have this coming out. Once again, making its way around as Major General Paulie Valley and I shared on the program. And he said specifically, once again, it's Obama is not Obama, and he was not born in America, and his name is Barry. And here it is. Why do you have the supposed grandparents of Obama that are in the photos right behind John F. Kennedy in Dallas prior to the assassination? Why are they there? Why are they highlighted? It is all coming around for major FAFO. And that FAFO for the deep state means complete freedom for all of us. But we can't just sit there idly by and do nothing about it. And if anybody needs some more comms, well, let's look at this. From a royal standpoint that I shared with you, where we saw the Trump post that, oh, whoa, look, there's an article where King Charles and I are actually bloodline cousins. And as President Trump said at the World Economic Forum, and he was there this year in Davos, right? And he said, you know, Europe's got to kind of get their act together and all this kind of crazy stuff and Green New Deals. And he's like, I like Europe. It used to be beautiful. I'm from Europe in my bloodline. My father from Germany, my mother from Scotland. And we saw that the royal bloodline in Scotland, where he comes from, on his mother's side, Elizabeth Christ. When you have the royal bloodlines, you also hold the keys to the royal beehives. And President Trump, in the top of the screen on Truth this week, posted a photo of him. This is actually, on the White House X account, posted everywhere. And he reposted the beekeeper with President Trump. And it was a nod to the Jason Statham 2024 action movie, The Beekeeper, where Jason Statham plays a former military operative known as the Beekeeper, which is to keep societal control or go after the bad guys if they throw everything awry. And what it also has is this great tie down here below that, another image of President Trump, First Lady Melania, and you have the royal couple central casting in front of the beehive, and an actual honeybee lands on President Trump's palm. And that also has a nod to a Q post at the time that was posted about Chuck Grassley coming soon and the removal of Planned Parenthood and what that stands for. And we know that is a Luciferian satanic bloodline because it's been popping up in Congress once again that Planned Parenthood is responsible for not only murdering babies, but also selling off the baby parts to other individuals and big companies and big pharma. We go to the White House dinner, the dessert that was served there after those speeches. Here it is, great photo of a beehive, a golden beehive. And once again, in the South Lawn Garden, which First Lady Melania Trump over a week ago had been making a big deal. Hey, we have royal beekeepers now. Look at this. We have a royal beehive. Excuse me, not royal. I'm saying royal. She didn't say that. We have a beehive on the South Lawn, and we're making our own White House honey. This is the beehive, which is incredible, beautiful replica of the White House. So that the Trump comms, trumping the so-called king, central casting right now, is epic. And it's ubiquitous for everybody who is, again, you're an awake sovereign soul for what has happened in the usurpation of the Constitutional Republic of America by the examination, entrance, and the institution of the Organic Act of 1871, which ended the Constitutional Republic, placed over it, capped it with a crown corporation in the District of Columbia, a sovereign city-state, not a country, not a nation, but had its own same type of parallels that were given to it, like sovereignty of the City of London, and that you would have in Vatican. So you have the religious order that is controlling the minds and the hearts, governus mentis, to control the minds from the religious side, and Vatican, also financial, Vatican Bank. Then you have the financial markets, the epicenter of it in the City of London, for which Queen Elizabeth and King Charles themselves had to ask permission for the mayor of the City of London to enter. And when they came in to the City of London, that monarchy would have to remove their shoes, get on their knees, and bow, and then enter. So all of this has been going on behind the scenes for eons. All of this returns us back to where we are right now, with the absolute usurpation being turned over in those tables from the deep staters. But what did they do? 1913 Act was brought in where they established the Federal Reserve, the IRS, the FBI, and the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. And then we saw in 1929 that incredible market shock. We had people jumping out of the windows, committing suicide, because that kicked off the depression of the dirty 30s. And on the 5th of April, 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt, president, signed Executive Order 6102, requiring, this is the theft of America's gold from Americans, requiring Americans to surrender their privately held gold coin, bullion, and gold certificates to the Federal Reserve in exchange for paper currency. And the official rate that they paid people were $20.67 an ounce. And those violations, if you had gold and you did not, by executive order, turn it into the Federal Reserve in America, it was punishable by a $10,000 fine and 10 years in prison if you didn't turn in your gold. No jabs, no job. This is a playbook that they have continued throughout the generations. Now, that order was issued under emergency powers by Roosevelt during the banking crisis, I'll put in parentheses, and it prohibited what the government defined then as the hoarding of gold, dramatically changing private ownership of hard money in America. Sound money is gone at that point in time. And that original executive order is publicly available for anybody to look at through the American Presidency Project. And I'll take you here to the screen right now. So you can take a look at this yourself. You can go online and you can read, once again, even more about the theft of America's gold from Americans. Now, I've done an entire show on this for a deep dive for 1.5 hours 2 years ago. I'm not going to do that right now for everybody. What's important for you to know is what happened next. Because 10 months later, not even, Roosevelt brought through the Gold Reserve Act of 1934, where the United States government, America Inc., officially revalued gold. Pay attention. America government officially revalued the price of gold at $35 an ounce, which materially changed the dollar's gold value and the monetary framework of the era, and then, of course, the world. That's extremely imperative for all of you to comprehend right now for where I'm going with the math on how I believe that we'll have at least $20,000 an ounce gold by the end of this year, right? And my goodness, if I'm wrong and it takes another year, isn't that okay too? but I believe it's going to happen this year for a couple of fundamental reasons, which I'll get into a little bit later. So here you have it. Basically, with the threat of up to 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine in 1933, you or your family had to give up every single piece of gold that you had in order to get these greenbacks from the US Federal Reserve note for $20. And less than 10 months later, they all gave themselves a pay raise and said gold's now worth 35. So you and your family lost out on a revaluation of over 80% in the wealth that you held. So the markets crashed in 1929, and they say due to the crisis, we're going to issue these greenbacks. And then they came out in 1935 and they issued Social Security numbers and made it required by law that everybody has to pay into Social Security, have a Social Security number, which registers you to the birth certificate, which is the death of the living sovereign. And now you are traded like chattel on the stock markets. The key thing here to hone in on is the revaluation of gold by the US government and what it did for everything. Now, as we move forward here, we've seen Trump cut in front of the king. We've seen the beekeepers. And on the day that the king and the queen came over for the royal visit last week, the hidden hand, what was a book that just released on Amazon with Queen Elizabeth, the hidden hand that controlled America's presidents, came out literally just telling the world what has been going on. And so the city of London, which was controlling the Strait of Hormuz, placing a terror premium tax on, like Susan Kokinda had been sharing on Promethean Action, amazing, and ensuring that they were enforced by the Iranian regime, and they were pumped up, it is no longer. And by the way, there's inklings as well from Promethean Action telling everybody that the Muslim Brotherhood was actually stood up in the 1920s, by the city of London themselves, which kind of makes a lot of sense based on everything that we have seen, doesn't it? Well, where does that get us to today? We have to remember now that you've had the 1913 Act that has come in. You've had the theft of America's gold, that gold confiscation. You've had a monetary shift. And then we had Executive Order 11110, signed by President Kennedy, to issue silver certificates directly from the Treasury, bypassing the Federal Reserve banking cartel owned by 7 families and putting those into the marketplace. But then President Kennedy was assassinated. And as I showed you earlier in the picture, Barry Soetoro, aka Barack Hussein Obama's grandparents, are in the photo right behind the motorcade JFK was riding in before those famous shots rang out. And what do we have now? We have a massive physical versus paper disconnect. The 2 PhDs in economics that I've had on this show multiple times over the years, separately on this show, one of them you've seen now twice this year, Dr. Peter C. Earle, a former West Point graduate. He served as a officer in the 2nd Army Ranger Battalion. He then served as a volunteer in Ground Zero as the rescue efforts went on. And he did 21 years in Wall Street. He has a master's in economics, an MBA, and a PhD in economics. And he's all about gold, silver, precious metals as sound money. And you're seeing these massive global price dislocations, silver and the structural deficit, because in COMEX, we just saw this week reported that there are over 200 million ounces gone out of the COMEX vault. Here's the post on X directly from COMEX that shows everything that is, oh, look at that, an issue with our file. Suddenly, we're unable to share the file. We must be over the target because something always happens when we're unable to post it right here. Here's that graph coming in. Thanks for everybody putting some prayer over top of it. So how is it then that in the 16 months building up the supply at COMEX of 200 million ounces of silver, that it's kind of vanished? Well, remember, that 2025 inventory buildup is gone. That's thanks to Hugo at improved_metals on X. 16-month accumulation has erased, he says. COMEX silver inventory hit the lowest level since December 2024, erasing the buildup. what's to come. You don't have to be an economist. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't even have to have an undergrad in economics to really understand that if you have 8 people who are thirsty in a desert and there's 1 liter of water and somebody has enough money to outspend, outpay, and buy that off of anyone else, and it's being held for ransom, then guess what? Those who can afford it will win. We're seeing that suppression finally ending right now with those victory comps. We're seeing the continued disparity. And if I have to remind you all, what we've covered here on the show, on January 1st, China ended all silver exports except for 44 special export licenses. But on April 1st, last month, China cut it all off. And in fact, as I showed in the show 2 weeks ago, which had nearly 1 million views on it, China has imported tens of thousands of tons of silver. So the country who is known to be the world's largest exporter of goods is now the one that is importing silver as well as gold, and central banks are gobbling it up. As I shared on that last show, clips of Warren Buffett saying, we at Berkshire Hathaway do not believe in the US dollar, treasuries, bonds, we are in the Japanese yen. I showed Henry Paulson, who is a billionaire, valued by Wikipedia currently at $1.5 billion, the former Fed chairman, who said that there is a bond collapse coming, warning about it, and actually on the news saying we need to work with Treasury to figure out a way. And then we also saw that I read from Treasury in March, the direct press release as it was announced, and we put it out here on the show, from Secretary Scott Bessent's central casting, that there is a new American currency coming. And on that new American currency, July 4th, President Trump will have his signature. The man who's been talking about the golden age, and the fact that it's the first time ever in American history any president has got their autograph on constitutional money. And then, as I'm about to show you the math, then we have to remember the 1792 Coinage Act, which was signed into law by George Washington himself, one of those amazing founding fathers of the greatest nation on earth. And in signing that into law, printing constitutional money had a bimetallic ratio of gold and silver of 15 silver ounces is equivalent to 1 of gold. So then, this brings us pretty much to where we are today. I've given you a framework that's used by hard money analysts that projects dramatically higher gold prices, which you're about to see, by dividing U.S. monetary liabilities from America's official gold reserves. So what we're talking about is an implied reset value. This is what I'm talking about. For gold, if the confidence in fiat money materially weakens. Once again, 1934 evaluation done by the US government took gold from $20.67 an ounce to $35 an ounce. And then post 1971, after up to 1980, we saw gold go over to $800 an ounce from $35. And the Bretton Woods system ended an inflation surge. Remember what Bretton Woods, what that act was about, was basically, we're going to go fund all the world and take care of them. That's over now. It's America first, right? Because Bretton Woods, like you said to a kid, hey, imagine if you had 1 penny piggy bank full of gold coins, but your entire neighborhood, they used your IOU notes like money. And you started issuing them, fractional reserve banking, right? And pretty soon there are more paper notes out there floating than you have gold in your piggy bank to back. And everyone starts wondering, hey, can you pay them back? Can you do this? Can you back my debt? And it all collapses and inflation runs rampant. So now we're looking at this and using the same logic, bringing this into a mathematical formula. And I don't take credit for this. This comes from an incredible man, Jim Sinclair. And Jim Sinclair from 1941 to 2023 is when he passed an American commodities trader. He's a gold investor. He was literally known as Mr. Gold in the financial circuits because he had bold market predictions, and his influence was huge in the precious metal sector. So he combined speculative expertise with hands-on mining, entrepreneurship, shaping investor attitudes. Now, here's a couple of things. Just before I share with you his formula applied today with everything that's going on at the Federal Reserve. He gained prominence in the 1970s, and everybody knows about that or was live for it here, accurately forecasting gold surge from 150 to 900 an ounce. Remember, people are going, what? Gold's 35 an ounce and 40 and 60 and 70. And then it went to 150 and he went, it's going to 900 and here's why. So that is what earned him the moniker Mr. Gold. He founded in 1977 the Sinclair Group of companies, offering brokerage services before selling it. He's got a website that was read really highly, in the latter 30 years, JS Mindset. And he's also served as executive chairman and CEO of TRX Gold, early founder of Sutton Resources, and so much. He even advised the Hunt brothers, Hunt Oil, back in the 1980s. But it's all about investment strategies and precious metals. Well, when you take what I'm about to share with you right here on the screen, what we're looking at with Mr. Gold himself, with the math, the current line for what we could reach this year is $25,632 an ounce for gold. What I want to do is back up for this. Take a look at this on the screen. Take a look at the image that I've shared with you right here. This is the current revaluation math, Mr. Gold style, Jim Sinclair style. And what you're doing is we're taking, based on April 30th reporting from the Federal Reserve, the total assets are reported as $6.7 trillion. And then the U.S. official gold reserves, which are reported by Treasury March 31st, we can't find anything else closer online, is 261.5 million troy ounces of gold. So you take that off and you figure if we used gold to back the federal balance sheet entirely, then we would have a gold price set at a revaluation of $25,623 an ounce. So that is where we get the potential that this could happen. Now, why do we say that some of the experts are agreeing it could be over 20,000 an ounce, including myself? Some, not all, right? What we have to take into account is J.D. Vance saying, remember, silver was classified by executive order last November 2025 by President Trump 7 months ago, a strategic mineral. It is a reserve asset. That is by executive order. That moves it to the front of the line along with other critical minerals, rare earth, etc., for the sovereignty of the nation of America. And we had J.D. Vance, the vice president, say we're going to probably have to revalue gold, silver. So it's been done before. And now we have a new American currency on July 4th that's to be signed by President Trump. So what is going on now for everybody when we see this? Because on July 4th as well, the Trump IRA.gov accounts go live. The Trump accounts for the kids go live on July 4th. So you have a child who will get $1,000 to $5,000 annually from Treasury till they're 18. But if it's left in the account, the current projections, as it's even shown on the website that I showed everybody here in February, could be as much as $13 million by the time your child is 55 years old. That is the business of America and a sovereign nation. And multiple times we have seen President Trump talk about tariffs and President McKinley, which is the greatest president from a tariffs running it. Remember, the Monroe Doctrine came from President McKinley. Remember Mount McKinley up in Alaska. I remember fighting forest fires in the Yukon and Haines Junction, and people pointing, yeah, Mount McKinley's that way. It's massive. And President McKinley established the Monroe Doctrine. And now with the Monroe Doctrine, we have the Shield of Americas. We have the Golden Dome going up, right? We have a golden age. We have Trump posting about gold. We have a beautiful White House gilded in gold, an Oval Office gilded in gold. We have the new Triumphal Arch gilded in gold. And we also have America 250 with the brand new Washington Monument being built, that Triumphal Arch. But what did they post on the official Freedom 250, America 250 site? And why does this gold potentially mean it can be something that other supposed nations, but our countries, could be celebrating too? This is April 16th post on Freedom 250 that says, here's the first look. Freedom 250 presents the Great American State Fair, all 56 states and territories. One massive World's Fair scale takeover. June 25 to July 10, 2026. America's biggest celebration of freedom. Don't miss it. Look at this post carefully and listen to what I just said, reading it. All 56 states and territories. If you went to Brave right now, to Google, to ChatGPT, and you asked, how many states in America? 50. And you asked, how many territories in America? 5. And then you have 9 minor outlying islands. Why does that say 56 states? I believe the best is yet to come. And that's exactly where we all are right now. Let's just say that this year alone, you hit $20,000 an ounce gold. That means those of you who are holding silver at a bimetallic ratio, constitutional money, 15-1, is $1,333 an ounce. Remember, I'm not a broker. I'm not an expert in terms of anything economics. I don't have any skin in the game with a medical spin. I'm not a doctor, never played one on TV, and I'm not anybody here to give you legal opinions or financial, just my own as a sovereign man who's been able to read things, go, yeah, masks don't work because we used them in the army, in the tear gas hut, and you have to have a proper seal, and it has to be through a charcoal filter. So why is this sock that you put over your face and this diaper going to work and save you from the world's most scariest virus, right? Jabs don't work. Nobody has ever shown empirical evidence that it does. And if you go back to World War I, those people who were inoculated in World War I, those soldiers, sailors, and airmen, more reported having died from the inoculations than all the bombs, bullets, and bayonets combined. And that is part of the justice which is coming too. So here we are with Goldco at this incredible precipice, everybody. And once again, this is USA only at the moment in time. But you can call Goldco toll-free tomorrow on Monday, or you can go online, you can download a free silver and gold report, set up the call with them. Bring your investment advisor. I'm not one, nor do I ever want to be one. Bring your stockbroker and your spouse to the call. I'm not your stockbroker, and I'm definitely nobody's spouse who's listening here on this call, right? Bring them on the call and have a proper conversation about how you could invest, allocate even part of your portfolio to gold, silver, and then what you might qualify for from them for an instant match in silver or gold. Again, if you have accounts at 50,000 or higher in your IRA or your 401k, it could literally mean generational wealth if we're looking at trajectories like this. What we definitely know is that the silver and the gold squeeze in the markets are true. And we also know that with the bond gate and everything else going on in the markets, the fiat and the paper is going by the wayside, and we're returning to that sound money now. Thank you very much for watching. This ends our segment on what is going on in the gold and the silver markets. And once again, here's that graphic for the gold revaluation math, AKA from Mr. Gold himself, Jim Sinclair, as if you were doing a 100% Fed balance sheet backing right now with sources direct from the Federal Reserve, debt clock, and also Treasury. We thank you very much for this. I'll be talking about the FAFO and the justice right after this break and what's to come, and showing you a few more videos. So if you're into your health and wellness, or you or your family, or you know somebody that's been jabbed, there's a lot more that's about to come out here, and I think we're in a FAFO week ahead. We'll see you right after this.
All right, you sovereign souls, now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver if you already have not. And if you are and you have a chance to do so, I highly encourage to do so even more, because gold and silver will launch the golden age, which Commander-in-Chief Trump has continuously referenced.
The dollar is going down, and it's not a pretty picture, and it's not being sustained by proper policy and proper thinking. This was an opportunity, and maybe an opportunity to show people what's happening with the dollar so that we can do something about it.
Get some if you can. BuddhaLovesGold.com will take you to our partner Goldco. They have over 6,000 five-star reviews. This is why now is the time to buy gold and silver, because we have thousands of Americans buying gold today. The rising inflation has reduced our purchasing power. Dysfunctional politics don't work for us. The US dollar has lost over 97% of its value since 1913, while the price of gold has increased over 9,000%. Silver has fared well against the dollar too, with the silver price increasing over 4,500% since 1913. It's about wealth protection. Physical precious metals act as a hedge against dips in volatile markets. Go over to BuddhaLovesGold.com. That's www.BUDDHA, BuddhaLovesGold.com. You will download your free silver and gold guide today, and our great people over there at Goldco will take care of you. That's BuddhaLovesGold.com. You'll see a picture of me right on there, Brad Wozny. And once again, BRICS is the new financial system. Asset-backed precious metals is the way of the future. This is about financial control. Diversifying your assets with gold and silver puts you in control of your wealth at BuddhaLovesGold.com.
All right, here begins our next part of our segment on the health and wealth side and the FAFO justice. That's fuck around, you find out. And this, again, are war crimes which are going to be levied. Now, for anybody who isn't aware of what war crimes are, but let's just take a look over the last week what's happened. You have the indictments for James Comey, where he was putting out 86-47. That's a mob signal, right? Even Trump said that. You say that in a mob, go 86 him. That means take him out, neutralize. So Comey's getting indicted, or is already indicted, James Comey, and that is just one of the dominoes to follow. You have the indictment for FAFO coming out, DNI Gabbard, that's Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who is already investigated FAFO for lying to Congress and for using federal money, taxpayer money, to fund gain-of-function research, and said it came from the Wuhan lab, and basically that was imposed and created COVID upon Americans. So now we already have an indictment of one of his lieutenants last week. We have DNI Gabbard saying that on Thursday on the news, that that's about to come. So we have war crimes, we have treason, we have sedition, we have also last week firing squads now allowed back in DC to take out the worst of the worst criminals. And Gitmo, of course, as military tribunals have been going on in different sites, going on for a long time, getting the public ready for the disclosure, including stolen elections, treason, right? That all ties to the Russiagate, all those scandals whatsoever. What's really key for all of us as that plays through. And once again, as that quote I just put into the chat, wise people see trouble coming and get out of its way, but fools go straight to the trouble and they suffer for it, is unfortunately all about the bioweapon, chemical weapon, radiological, technological warfare they've unleashed on us, whether it's the EMFs, the 5G towers, or even greater stuff they've been doing to us before that. We know about the mammograms now, thanks to Children's Health Defense Network and so many others, and the MAHA movement, even all the way up to RFK Jr. himself. This about autism on Joe Rogan. So listen to this.
Just the autism rate in California, I want you to scale that out. If it was 1 in 10,000, X amount of years ago, now it's 1 in 12. When is it 100%? When is it all kids have autism?
Right.
Right? I mean, it's clearly moving in that direction and not the other direction. If you go from 10,000, 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 12 over a very brief amount of time, a few decades, something's going on. And don't tell me it's just better diagnoses, because that's fucking horseshit.
Yeah.
You know that's horseshit. That's gaslighting to cover up for the pharmaceutical drug complex.
It is.
The reality is something's going on, and if it continues on that same path, what's to stop it from being all of us? What's to stop it from being all people born in the future or on the spectrum?
All right, so that's Joe Rogan, right? That's on autism. It's all come out. The vaccines cause autism. There it is right now. Let me share with you, everybody in Canada, I see bonus in the chat, grand risings to you as well on YouTube in that chat. Let me also share with you this. You recall in China, the National Citizens Inquiry, which Pastor Archer Pawlowski shared here on this show and said that that was a setup. That was a setup. It was a setup by the government, backed by the government. They even sat at his kitchen table, Pierre Poilievre and the fixers sat at his table, the fixers for them sat at his table, said, we pay for you to be quiet. They didn't take their money. But you had some real, actual professionals that were on the NCI, National Citizens Inquiry in Canada in 2024. You haven't seen the public justice of this, right? CBC is still running, the communist-backed broadcasting corporation, and so much more. Here's Dr. Paul Thomas, Dr. Charles Hoff discussing what had happened and being fired, as well as talking about the medical treatment for the COVID-19.
After 31 years as an emergency room physician with not one single patient complaint against me in those 31 years, I was fired for saying that somebody who had natural immunity didn't need to be vaccinated against a disease to which they were already immune. Fortunately, I still had my medical license, even though I'd lost a significant part, at least 50% of my income, and I couldn't work as an emergency room doctor anymore. I still had my private practice. So I continued on, but I realized that I needed to try and find out how to help my patients. So when I discovered from the biodistribution studies that Pfizer had hidden, that we knew that these vaccines go around your entire body, they do not just stay in your arm. Pfizer's biodistribution studies on the lipid nanoparticles show that they literally take those messenger RNA strands into every part of your body. They go into your brain and your lungs and your heart and your liver and your reproductive organs and your bone marrow and everywhere. Which is, by the way, why these COVID shots have caused a greater array of side effects than any other medical treatment in history. Because this toxic spike protein ends up in literally every part of your body without exception.
All right, well, there you go. Let me just pull that clip from you and show you one more about the justice is coming. All relative to this. And here it is from Ireland.
The place in the world is in Ireland. It's a place called Waterford. They had the highest vaccination rate in the world. Then they suffered the highest COVID rate in Ireland. And then they had the highest excess deaths. The local health authority got an award from the World Health Organization for the way they handled the pandemic. They had the highest death rate, having had the highest vaccination rate. 85% excess deaths at one stage they were on. The BBC could solve it in a day just by telling the truth.
And we know they don't want to tell the truth because, again, they are culpable as a result of that, right? They're part of pushing that, the globalist, Luciferian, satanic movement, because you are the carbon. They want to destroy you, me, your family, everybody else going on, right? Sunny British Columbia's in the chat. Great to see you on YouTube here as well. I mentioned DNI Gabbard and I mentioned RFK Jr. and what is going on. Let me just show you right now. RFK Jr. talking about the dangers of these. This, again, is this incredible Secretary of Health and Human Services. And this is a clip from RFK 2024 discussing with Gary Goldman, the study in California that was done by the CDC scientists about the chickenpox vaccine creating shingles epidemics.
CDC was thinking of recommending this chickenpox vaccine as mandating for children. They did a study, and the scientist they hired to do that study was a scientist called Gary Goldman, a contract scientist. And he did the study in an isolated place in California called Antelope Valley, a long-term study. And what they find is if you give the chickenpox vaccine, mass vaccinate with chickenpox, it stops chickenpox, but it causes shingles epidemics later on, which are 20 times as deadly as chickenpox. So if you go, nevertheless, despite those studies, we mandated for American children in this country. In Europe, they don't. If you go to the British National Health Service website right now, you can read on that where they say, we do not recommend chickenpox vaccines because it causes shingles epidemics later on. And that's the problem. You can't just look at, you can say that this product is going to prevent this particular disease, but you have to look at the long term. When
There you go. That's from RFK Jr. right there. Very powerful, right? Well, it continues. Let me just share with you Dr. Paul Thomas, because we talked about Amish Strong.
Over the next decade, as more and more patients,
multiple times over the years here, right? And they multiple times took down the channels, removed the 3 channels had on YouTube, as well as Spotify and some other stuff too. Mass suppression here. Dr. Paul Thomas in Oregon talking about that Amish Strong type of effect, but in his own practice, with rates that would alarm you of the difference between children who are vaccinated versus unvaccinated. And by the way, this is not fear porn, everybody, because there are wellness solutions. We've all had jabs, I'd say, at this point in time. Most of us who are adults, over the years as kids, mom and dad had it done to us. But it's something that we can look forward and change in the future, starting now, with awareness, and you can research yourself.
the next decade, as more and more patients chose not to vaccinate, I got to see the difference. But I wanted to see, could I prove it? So we got all the data from my practice. We looked at every baby born into my practice and published it in an international journal of public health. What we found, and that study was peer-reviewed, it was robust, we found massive increases. I mean, we're talking 400 to 500% more. Allergies, autoimmune conditions, neurodevelopmental issues, and then we had infections of all kinds. Massively increased in the vaccinated compared to the unvaccinated. What happened when I published that study? Within days of it being available online, I get a call from my attorney. Don't go see any patients, don't write any prescriptions, don't go into the office. Your license has been emergently suspended. You are a threat to public health.
What's today?
Today, it is the last time I will be doing clinical medicine in Oregon. Knowing that you guys are keeping it going, the heart of this place lives on.
So here you are, right? And we know the Amish Strong. We also have Del Bigtree at HHS now, who is part of Make America Healthy Again under RFK Jr. Del Bigtree was massively targeted too during the so-called pandemic, right? It was a pandemic on purpose. I want to take you to another video as well of RFK Jr. waking up people on, what is it? Yeah, the Bill Maher show. This was reposted on Joe Rogan a few days ago.
There's 25% of Americans who believe that they know somebody who was killed by a COVID vaccine.
Killed?
Killed.
25%.
5% of Americans, 52% of Americans believe that the vaccines are causing injuries, including death. 52%. Oh, if you look at the clinical trial studies, the actual studies that were done that were released of the Pfizer vaccine, Moderna has not released it. If you look at the Pfizer vaccine, there were 22,000 people in the placebo group, 22,000 people who got the actual vaccine. And the people who got the vaccine had a 23% higher death rate from all causes at the end of that study.
But that could not be the disease itself?
No, well,
because we know that
if it is, then the vaccine doesn't work, does it?
Well, it's certainly. Well, no, that's not. That's.
Worthy question, right? If it works, why are they still dying? And why were all the flus? There's flu every year in Canada, the United States, all the countries we were susceptible to the flu. Get your flu vaccine. And then the pandemic and COVID and the lockdowns broke out. And all flus went away. It was only COVID-19. Magically disappeared. To prepare you for the FAFO that's coming, which is great for us who have had our entire families. Raise your hand if you've had your families murdered by big pharma. Here's my hand raised. The FAFO that's coming, the justice that's necessary, not because of a bloodlust or a bloodthirst, but because it is a reckoning for which the world can at least hold all those to account, which I believe are over 100 million complicit, those who are willing. It's different when you're doing something for the benevolent and then you realize that there might be something more benevolent and this is the wrong approach, then there's a full stop. If those who have the Luciferian satanic agenda, who are like, no matter what, you're going to get this and I'm going to profit from it and I'm going to give it to you. Despite all evidence, there is the reckoning. There is the war crimes, the Nuremberg 2.0. And at the highest levels, people are going to pay with their lives because it's serial murder, genocide, right? Here is DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, which I mentioned earlier, discussing this on this clip right here, which was posted by Nicholas Holscher, who runs for Dr. Oh gosh, I just had his name on the tip of the tongue here. McCullough runs his company for him. So here's what he says. And again, he runs the PR in the company for Dr. McCullough. We found 146 neurological and psychiatric CDC, FDA safety signals were breached with COVID shots, including prion disease, 847% more likely versus a regular flu shot. Brain clots, 3,000 times more likely. Does anybody know anybody who is taken a shot? I'm talking about the COVID shot or a flu vaccine, all of a sudden can't get rid of headaches, problems, brain fog. Psychosis is 440 times more likely. Homicidal ideation, 25 times more likely. Dementia, 140 times more likely. Suicidal thoughts, 150 times more likely. Schizophrenia, 315 times more likely. Depression, 530 times more likely. Herpes zoster meningitis, 1,200 times more likely. Toxic encephalopathy, 157 times more likely. Meningitis of all types, 34 times more likely. Autoimmune encephalitis, 79 times more likely. Brain abscesses, 120 times more likely. Spinal cord abscess, 89 times more likely. Violent behavior, are you seeing a change in relationships with people you know have been jabbed? 80 times more likely. Cognitive decline, 115 times more likely. Delusions, 50 times more likely. Myelitis, all types, 31 times more likely, and many more. The mRNA shots disrupt the blood-brain barrier, allowing mRNA amyloidogenic spike proteins and pathogens to penetrate the brain and spinal cord. This explains why 7.4% of Americans are now cognitively disabled and why common sense has collapsed across the globe. That is from Dr. McCullough and Nicholas Holscher, MPH. Extremely powerful. And then to take you over to the video now on DNI Gabbard and what she's going to do to Fossey and everybody else that's implicated in part of it as it's coming out on this side. What's coming out? I'll do so. War correspondent on X had reshared this. So here it is from the other day. Holy smokes, America, this bombshell we've been waiting for. DNI Tulsi Gabbard just confirmed on the Megyn Kelly show, right? Fox, that she's leading a full investigation into Anthony Fauci for alleged perjury and his direct links to U.S.-funded gain-of-function research at the Wuhan labs as part of the COVID-19 origins probe. Finally, accountability is coming. The truth about what really happened is about to explode. Here's the full video transcript. We don't need the transcript. I'm going to show you 90 seconds so you can see it and you can hear it. And you know about this. This came out on May the 1st. This clip from the show, DNI Gabbard on with Megyn Kelly show.
We are working with Jay Bhattacharya, the new NIH director, with, as well as Secretary Kennedy, is looking at the gain of function research that in the case of the Wuhan lab, as well as many of these other biolabs around the world, was actually US funded and leads to this dangerous kind of research that in many examples has resulted in either a pandemic or some other major health crisis.
Well, let me ask you specifically, because we already know that EcoHealth Alliance was partnering with this Wuhan lab to do gain of function research.
That's right.
We just have never been able to have somebody say, it was that exact experiment that led to this COVID bug. But have we gotten there? What's the new thing that you're digging in on?
We are working on that with Jay Bhattacharya and look forward to being able to share that hopefully very soon.
Okay.
That specific
link,
correct, between the gain of function research and what we saw with COVID-19.
I mean, that would be extraordinary because just so the audience knows, if that's true, if it was Peter Daszak's research with the Wuhan so-called bat lady that caused this pandemic, then we did fund it. Then Anthony Fauci helped fund the pandemic.
The thing that he denied over and over and over to Senator Rand Paul's questioning.
That's right. Under oath.
Under oath, exactly. So is it any wonder that he sought a preemptive pardon for anything during a certain period of time by President Biden before he left office?
And then strong arm.
And there you have it, right? Now, multiple shows have done. I shared with everybody here. Go back here. You can watch these all yourself, right? On ways that have been shown to detox these things. Plus, people are shedding, right? That's a fact. It's been proven. People are shedding. So the ones that have gotten the shots, it's coming out of their skin. Exosome shedding is truly real. The first one I'll take you to, Skynet is active, right? Shocking evidence of chemtrails, etc. And parasites. And parasites have never been seen before. Mold types never been seen before with myself and Clayton Thomas. So that one, Skynet is active. You can watch that on Rumble or YouTube, or it's not yet out as a podcast on Apple, but watch that and what we cover, because they have multiple patents now issued or pending for the very natural stuff that we have at root, right here, like Clean Slate, which is clinically proven to help detox the bioweapons, to help detox, and this is the chelation part of the Trinity pack that they have. So it grabs all the heavy metals that are in your body and it gently chelates it over the course of a month, a few more weeks beyond that, right? And you can get that at getrootnow.com/wellness. You can see the patents for reversing ADHD, dementia, all that other stuff that has come out. We showed that on the show. We went through all the patents issued, pending. It's all natural, ships to over 80 countries in the world. They're part of MAHA. And I don't mean like they embrace MAHA. They are part of it with RFK Jr. on the board, as they've shared. Trinity Pack has the zero in quantum consciousness, right? Gets you into the flow state. And Dr. Christina Rahm, Clayton's wife, who has 3 PhDs, an MD, and a PsyD, and an eidetic memory, and a woman who developed this because she was bitten by ticks when she was in her teens. She lost her entire memory. She had to learn how to walk again, eat again, do everything again, but came back because she had a vision of sitting there with Christ and was told, your purpose, and I'm sending you back, your purpose here to stop an extinction level event on humanity. And that's what we've seen. And while for the most part it's led up, it's not completely gone. From chemtrails that we're seeing, the EMF radiation, the foods and the poisoning around the world still happening. And you don't get rid of this stuff overnight in your body. So it's up to us, right? So you're going to see the patents, what it does on that whole show. If you have anybody worried, you can ask their science team and say, hey, listen, I have this problem, losing weight, converting brown to white fat cells to burn the fat and chelate these heavy metal toxicities out of my body. And remember, just years ago, and I've been using the Trinity Pack for 4 years, January 2022, with Restore, which is part of the Trinity Pack. 4 years ago, they showed under a microscope a little bit of this dropper here, Clean Slate, which wipes the slate clean. Clean Slate chelates heavy metal toxicities, and it cleanses your pineal gland and gives you silica calcite crystals, which is a key for them, right? They showed under a microscope Clean Slate dissolving graphene oxide, and YouTube banned them. So these people are incredible, how they have been battling the demons. And we have to do this. We have to take it. It's upon ourselves to leverage things like this. Do your own research. The links are right below the description of the show. Put it in the chat here in a moment. You have to do these things because, and research it, and because there's nobody else coming to help us door to door to, like with a tricorder from Star Trek, go, okay, you're okay. That's not happening. It's not happening now. Probably not going to happen next month. Probably not going to happen the next few years. So there's hundreds of millions to billions of people who are around here, and the information's put out, and it's up to us to do our research, to tap into our discernment, and live from love, our sound of unlimited love, right? Guided by our soul, the art of our heart, to leverage the things that have been given to us by our Creator God or those who are walking in God's light. And that's why there's a beautiful cross on the Trinity pack, right? So again, with the Trinity pack, I'll show you here. And there's a lovely Allie who's recorded a segment on this in the Trinity pack. So I'll roll over to Allie right now, tell you a little bit more about it. And then we're going to come back and discuss one more thing. And I've got one more video to show you about these things and the clots that unfortunately they're pulling out of people. And I hope to God that not being pulled out of any of your family members right now. But with 5 billion people who they reported took the jab, you know, the chances are pretty strong. So we need to be there for everybody, even if they aren't aware of this themselves. It's up to us to educate them too. Here's Allie.
If you are looking for groundbreaking nutritional products which revolutionize the way your body operates, you have to check out this cutting-edge, American-made, all-natural wellness brand. Root the Trinity Pack from GetRootNow.com is a game changer. Let me show you. Zero In is the world's first quantum-ceutical, an all-natural, adaptogenic nootropic which skyrockets your clarity and creativity. Professional athletes have reported over a 40% increase in their performance in only 90 days. Restore is a supplement that completely restores your gut health, optimizes your true brain, helping you tap into quantum consciousness, also known as the God Mind, altogether with Clean Slate, which gently wipes out harmful heavy metals from your body, gently evacuating toxins, including graphene oxide. Trinity Pack from Root altogether helps you increase your performance, longevity, deep sleep, and have a far greater quality of life. Register now at GetRootNow.com to grab your Trinity Pack. Then hit subscribe and save to get $15 back every month. Trinity Pack has also received the gold standard, a worldwide BSCG approval, allowing those in the military to first responders to the NFL, PGA, NBA, FIFA World Cup Soccer, and more feel assured it is indeed all natural and drug-free. Trinity Pack even comes with a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. So when you grab your Trinity at GetRootNow.com, you can feel good knowing it's endorsed by Tier 1 Special Operations Warriors, to lightworkers, benevolent healthcare heroes, professional athletes, and Olympians detoxing their systems and unleashing their greatest self from across the globe. You can also get rewarded for being part of the Root community. See you there!
Bishop Jim O'Connor is in our Rumble chat over here. This man is an absolute hero. We've done many, many, many shows together. He has his own Rumble show, God Wins. You can go to the Grace of God on Rumble. And again, West Point Army grad, United States major, retired with an MBA, and a man who is the only confirmed story by the United States government of ghost haunting. Punched the demon Cobalt in the face at West Point in the room, which they then closed, which is all written up and published in a TV series coming about Bishop Jim O'Connor. The unfortunate thing that he shared that he's done many times here on the show is it was the jabs that they gave his wife, who's now been ordained a saint, Jimmy Lynn, in his Christian Orthodox order, gave her the jab in order to get an operation 5 years ago. And she died almost on the spot from a brain aneurysm and a brain bleed. Not before she and he helped save other individuals with the water from Lourdes at the hospital. And this is the part where we're sitting here going, we've all lost and know people just from the COVID-19 biological, chemical, radiological, technological weapon of mass destruction. That's exactly as it was classified by the Alliance of Indigenous Nations Tribunals in October of last year. We're at Haida heroin. You can look at that with Frida Davis from Haida Gwaii. This was all substantiated and put forward by them, designated it, and the AIN tribunal is recognized by several United States Supreme Court rulings, and the Crown Corporation of Canada as a legitimate tribunal. Now we have the tribunals continuing over in the Dutch courts right now against Bill Gates, Anthony Burla, and others for this weapon of mass destruction, right? But one of the other things that it does, as we've already covered under Dr. McCullough and Nicholas, I showed you his post, is this other video. Now, definitely don't have any kids in the room for this. And definitely there are ways to take care of this. Some we've shared, and you can ask the science team. When you go to getrootnow.com, you go to the contact us section, you put in your name, your email, your phone number, and you can ask the science team what they would recommend to do based on the clinical studies Root has and the patents issued or pending from their natural stuff to abate or even remove detox shots in your system. Okay, I'm going to play the video now. Again, do not let the kids see this. This is from Mary Tally Bowden, medical doctor. In my opinion, very similar to Dr. Carrie Madej, osteopath, who's been sharing and been out there hardcore. She is the founder, Mary Tally Bowden, doctor, founder of Americans for Health Freedom, kept 6,000 plus COVID-19 patients out of the hospital and sued the FDA for spreading misinformation, and she won. An incredible divine heroine. Here's the enormous white fibrous amyloid clot removed from a man's jugular vein. These clots were not seen prior to COVID. This is May 2nd, yesterday, with over 500,000 views, 582,000 right now as I play this video. Definitely follow her on Twitter X at Mary Bowden MD right there. Here's the video.
Could be wrong. Oh no, there it is.
You know how small the jugular vein is, and this is coming out of the man's
jugular vein
from the shots.
Try to pull this out. It broke.
Wow.
It's good. All right, hold on. I'm not sure. See, it's very much like a rubber band.
Rubber band.
Compare it to the size of your hand or your finger so you can see how long it is.
Well, I didn't hear.
That's why nothing can stop what is coming. That's why we have the beginning of the takedown in a public way of tribunals for those who committed those war crimes, crimes against humanity, who fund them, who support them, who willingly commit them. And in addition to that, you know, we've had the Warriors Wellness Show. So you can go back to both Rumble or YouTube, and you can see just 2 weeks ago, the Warriors Wellness Show, which sits right beside Skynet Active, I mentioned with Clayton Thomas of Root. Warriors of Wellness, the breakthrough X39, X2O water technology from LifeWave, and the Code of Creation premiere. So 17 days ago from now, you can go back there, you can watch that show, watch what we discussed with Barry and Connie Lucas, who are on our team. The same team Bishop Jim O'Connor is also on with LifeWave. Why? Because this incredible, we are beings of light, created in God's own image, right? The great omnipresence of divinity. And this Cellular, which is a supplement you put in water, which helps your mitochondrial support and ATP production, in conjunction with X39, which is the little wellness patch, patented, multi-patented from LifeWave, won the Biotech 2025 Stem Cell Innovation of the Year Award. Again, it's non-invasive, it's all natural, because we are stimulating the frequency of light that comes out of our body. The X39 patch redirects a part of those light waves. We are light waves. You can see aura photography, right? You can see thermal imaging, heat that comes off us. When you are wearing the X39 patch, it's the size of a quarter, thin as a few hairs, right? It has a little 3M adhesive, like a Band-Aid, you know, that little sticker. You can put it anywhere on the body for up to 12 hours a day. I put it on when I brush my teeth in the morning. I take it off at night because it's a yang energy. And it immediately stimulates your GHKCU peptide. Now, there's over half a century of research of GHKCU peptides. What is it? It's the copper peptide in our bloodstream. Everybody's known, back in the 80s, they had those infomercials like, Mom, I got arthritis and I'm hitting my golf ball swing and, I hurts. And I put on the copper bracelet. Man, I feel so much better. Well, copper, just like we've seen with water stills, we've seen with wiring the walls, it's highly conductive. And we have copper peptides in our body, in our bloodstream as human beings. All mankind has. So when you stimulate GHKCU, copper peptide production, that has an immediate supply chain reaction. So when you stimulate GHKCU, it immediately activates your dormant stem cells. Our stem cells go to sleep when we age. So when you stimulate GHKCU, which X39 does, that then has a supply chain reaction that activates your stem cells again. It then activates 1/3 of your genome. You can even see clinical studies on that. You can go to liveyounger.com/Buddha. The links are in the description. You can see the patents and the proof. And when you wear X39, ships to almost 100 countries on Earth, right? It has multiple patents, originally started for the Navy SEAL program, Black Ops program, that Obama, Barry Soetoro, said, no, we can't have that. And he killed the Black Ops project. David Schmidt, America's most prolific inventor now with 201 patents, visionary CEO of LifeWave, said, I'll take this out directly. So this patch is little over $3 a day. It's a 1-month supply in this envelope, X39. So for $99, which is a Gretzky number, which you can get with 100% money back guarantee for up to 2 months, you can use it. You get 30-day supply. Now, I don't know about any of you, but let's just say you looked at people who are getting stem cell injections from synthetic stem cell stuff or from other people, shark fins or whatever. Why are they injecting stem cells from other animals or something synthetic made in the lab when we, by creation from the great omnipresence of divinity, we can heal thyself? When we have these tools that are placed here to help us from those who are ordained by our prime creator, like a Dr. Christina Ram or a David Schmidt, to help the world. And the price has never went up. It's been $99 for 6 years. Can't think of anything that hasn't gone up in 6 years. It's extremely powerful. Terrell in the chat says, on YouTube says, does the patch stay on if you sweat and work outside all day? It depends. If you have very oily skin, one thing before you put the patch on, you just take a face cloth or a tissue and you wipe it and then you put it on. I've worn them surfing, depending on the level of surfing, most times they stay on. And I'm surfing waves where, they're about overhead, right? All the way down to 2-footers on a massive longboard. I've worn them skiing. Everybody has saw my video for 10 days out of 12 days of skiing this year. I was up in Revelstoke, Deep Powder, wore them skiing. They stayed on pretty much the entire day, every single day when I was wearing them. I had the energy enhancers X39 and X49 on, right? X49 activates your carnosine peptide. So this builds muscle, helps more rapidly repair muscle, and supports together X39 total body regeneration. So again, all those information is below. So we have tools which we can leverage and we can help others continue to be light, live as light. You don't even have to be a Reiki master. You don't have to be a bishop in the underground Orthodox Church and an actual ordained exorcist like Bishop Jim O'Connor to be a light worker. You got to take care of ourselves, our vessel that we've been giving in our temple first and foremost. And you can just share information with your loved ones, with your families, your peers, your friends, your community, right? And see what's up to for them. And by the way, everybody has 100% money back guarantee, whether it's at root. So you can buy it, try it, see it. We have people that you can speak to. We have email support, Zoom support dailies, as well as customer service all around the world. So we don't leave anybody hanging. We're all here. We survive, just as President Kennedy said, where we go one, we go all. That is about it being with us together, right? And as you see here in the show, there's a really interesting through line too, because even though it has a picture of Presidents Kennedy and Trump, you also see a legacy left by RFK and RFK Jr. So where one is restoring the sovereignty of the nation and the financial powerhouse as to which it stands and it should be the business of America, another is restoring the health of America. And this is a quote I'm going to read you directly from President John F. Kennedy. When you have your health, you have 1,000 wishes in life. When you don't have your health, you only have one. So enjoying our wealth to come, or that you might have now, from a financial standpoint, means nothing unless you have your health and your wellness to do so. And hopefully, if you have lovely children, or you're an aunt, an uncle, a grandfather, a grandmother, you name it, or a good friend, he's known as an aunt or an uncle. Hopefully they get to enjoy that too with you. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm Brad Wozny in the Sovereign Soul Show. We really appreciate people when they give a thumbs up and they get this message out to people, they share it. Everybody leverage your intuition. You have a chance to leverage the deductive reasoning from the clinical case studies to the research to even the math that was presented right here on the current gold revaluation based on April 1st and March 31st data of Treasury and reported gold reserves, as well as the Federal Reserve, 6.7 trillion total in assets sitting there. That potentially would equal right now, if this was done today, the switch was flipped, would equal 25,623 an ounce gold. But hey, if you just get to 20 grand gold, your silver's worth 1,333 an ounce precisely. And that would be pretty awesome. We've got a couple amazing shows coming up this week. Tomorrow, a live stream with Brad Olson and Dr. Sam Osmanagovich about the Bosnian pyramids and the conference that's coming up in just a few weeks over in Bosnia. But that and the spheres, and with all the disclosure going on, that'll be truly incredible and remarkable. Until then, we'll see you all later. Please like, subscribe, share. Feel free to drop some comments in the chat. And again, the links are all below the description of the show on the broadcast, or if you're listening to us later on a podcast. God bless you all. See you later.
Thanks for joining us on the program, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, follow, subscribe, share this with 9 friends and family. And of course, if you enjoy our blinged Buddha firing red pills from his 9mm, let us know.